Yeah, sure. My name's Aamir Yaqud. I am a engineer and a producer, and that's my job day to day, just working on music in the studio. Some of the common mistakes that artists will make is not being prepared. That's one of the things that you have to be prepared for, like mentally, or making sure that you practiced and warmed up if you're a vocalist or even an instrumentalist. I'd say that's the most common mistake. Also, I'd say that when you're recording, you should treat it like a limited time session. So, if you spend too much, if you think you've got all of the time in the world, essentially, you might not get as much done as if you just packed it into a smaller session that had constraints. So I think that, yeah, that's kind of planning, but it's something that needs to be considered by artists a lot of the time. So before an artist would come in with me, I guess I'd expect them to just have done the basic things like make sure that they're warm, make sure that they're in a good frame of mind. Obviously, it's fine if they're not, but making sure that they know how they want the session to go as well. So what they want to get out of the session, and how I might be able to help them do that. I think that's really important. It's obviously part of preparation, but it's something that needs to be kind of locked down by a lot of people a lot of the time, just so you're able to make the most out of the session and everyone's able to have, a really productive and fun session. Yeah, good question. There's a lot of things that you can do to get a great sound, great vocal sound, primarily, of course, when you're recording. I'd say one of the first things is to class anything that you buy as an investment. So if you buy really, really cheap things, you know that what's going to happen is that they're not going to last a long time. And obviously, you want them to last a long time. So make sure you're investing in your craft. It's very important that you do that. Further to that, obviously, just learning how to make things sound good. If you know people, obviously, who work in music, who work with sound, that's great. There's plenty of videos online that can help you. Even things like short courses and stuff like that can really, really help you to achieve a really good sound. But generally speaking, I think one of the best ways is to just get in and start listening and using your ears. I think it's kind of underrated, the actual using of your ears, which is quite funny to me. But using your ears to hear where your sound is and where you might want it to be is obviously super important as well. In terms of actually what you can do, you can make sure that your room you don't record it in a bathroom. It's not a good idea. It's a very reflective space. And, it's going to sound like it was recorded in a bathroom. So your environment is quite important. And what you want to do is like try and minimize, any sound reflecting around. And so, things like those reflection filters that you can get to really kind of like hone that sound in. And just making sure that yourself, when you're actually approaching the microphone, you're not too close, you're not too far. You're using what we call good gain staging. So if you do have an audio interface, you're not cranking the gain up so that you distort when you're coming in. There's lots of little things that you can do, and it's more about all of those little things added up to give you a good sound rather than any one big thing. Unfortunately, there's no magic wand to getting a great sound. Yeah. Okay. So when you're live streaming on lounges, I think one of the things that you want to be aware of is, how to actually technically set things up. So a lot of the time, I'm assuming that when you perform, it's going to be a great performance because you're a natural performer, and that's almost going to be the easy part. But what you really will need to consider is just a lot of the technical stuff, just making sure you've got that, you understand it. Again, preparation is very, very key. So if you can go through a few dry runs to make sure that everything is working as you want it to, I think that that's probably the most important thing, because I'm just guessing you're going to be, performing really great. And, that's the easy part. It's perhaps the capture of it that you might want to make sure you've got locked down. Yeah. So in terms of the equipment that you use, or the software that you use specifically in this case, most software is now relatively inexpensive, I would say. I'd say if you have a Mac, which a lot of creatives do, then you get GarageBand for free on your Mac. And I still work with artists that I collaborate with, who just use GarageBand. Obviously, if you want to kind of step it up a little bit, and you have a couple of £100 to invest, you want to probably look at Logic. It's like a really, really great access point. Logic Pro is a great access point into the world of recording and production, of course. There are other free softwares around, but I feel like for a lot of people, it's just a very, very easy way into the world of music production. And of course, it's used by professionals everywhere around the world, and has been for a very long time. So it's not like you're actually coming in with a piece of software that's not being used by people who are making your favorite records. So social media is obviously, I would say, the number one place to find someone who is looking for someone to collaborate with. If that's producers, if that's anyone else who might work on that side of the glass, as we call it. And now that we can go out a little bit, it's also good to be out and about in certain, maybe at certain events, in certain areas, because you do become recognized to some degree, and you get introduced to people who are around. Let's say I go somewhere, I bump into a friend there with 4 other people, and they introduce me to those people, and one of them goes, "Oh, I'm looking for a producer," and so on and so forth. For me, it's a preferable way to build a relationship with someone, because it's very natural and organic as well. So I'd say that those are two of the primary ways. Obviously, even things like platforms like SoundCloud are still relevant in terms of that kind of stuff. There's lots of producers who just, will throw beats up there and stuff like that. So that can be good. And BeatStar is good as well still. So yeah, there's lots of places that you can go, but I'd say primarily social media and real life. One of the things when you're recording, and you're in a session with an artist, you both need to be able to communicate exactly what you want at any given time. So as an artist, if you want more reverb, as a producer, if you want the artist to stand at a different point near the microphone or something like that, you just need to be able to say that. One of the things that I say is you should never really get to a place where communication breaks down, because you should always have positive communication. So let's say that I'm working with someone, and I'm recording them, and I can hear that they didn't have a good take, or as good a take as I think that they could have. I'd say, "That was really good. Can we just try another one?" And I'd say that until maybe they were confident enough, and I felt that confidence coming through. But it's all about positive feedback. And that obviously works both ways. As an artist, you don't want to turn around and start swearing at your engineer if they've put too much reverb in your headphones. It has to be a positive interaction. The studio has to be a very positive space in order for you to get great music. Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't know that one was coming. So studio etiquette is really super, super key. And I'd say it's actually equally as key as if, you know, if I'm sitting in a session with Rihanna, or if I'm sitting in a session with a developing artist who I've known for maybe 6 months. It's equally as key, because the studio is first and foremost, it's a place of comfort and it's a place of privacy. And so I think that everything that you can do to facilitate that will really, that really goes into studio etiquette. A lot of the time, you're probably not going to get the best results if you're not creating comfort, if you're not creating privacy, and really and truly a safe space. So I just like kind of see it as like, let's create a force field around this room that we're in at the moment. But also just making sure that you're catering for each other's needs. And that is really studio. It's basically just being a nice human being. Try and do that.